wars, bring back American jobs, right? Of meaningful jobs.
Okay, he's missing the point here. I really love the concept of American jobs, but I hate the fact that we don't talk about the realities of what's necessary to have a meaningful job, which is number one, the correct education. We still have not put in any meaningful rules about the type of degree that you're allowed to get. In fact, I'm very much so against socialism and like paying for stuff in general. However, I'd be willing to pay for the education of physicians. I'd be willing to pay for the education of software engineers and other core functionaries. But the problem is that we still are allowing people to take degrees in Chicano studies, African American studies, communication, sociology. We need to cap off sociology as a major for like the people who are really interested and brainiacs. We need to probably do away with entirely certain disciplines or cap them off. You know, the Black studies, Chicano studies, gender studies, LGBTQ studies, almost anything that ends in studies, we need to cap it off very tightly, force everyone into either a discipline that is going to be very beneficial to the society and them financially, or send them to trade school. Not everyone is meant for a liberal arts education. We have the university system is overpopulated with imbeciles, and that's not a new thing. So we need to let people know that, you know, if you could fix a toilet, you'd be far more useful than a gender studies major. If you could embalm like a body or be a one who studied mortuary science, we'd value you much more than a hairstylist. And we have so many women who call themselves entrepreneurs and they're, love, you're a lash tech, which is a fake job. And it's really silly. The idea that people have to pay others to groom them. You should be able to groom yourself at home, or at worst, have one of your family members help. So we have fake majors, fake jobs, and it's created a economy that's very unsteady. And our prospects for the future are quite limited. And the failing to address the real issue of making America great, which is to make Americans great, better education, yes, improved culture. These are things that we leave and think that the free market and people are going to figure it out, and they're not figuring it out. We have too many youngsters who want to make a quick buck on OF, too many youngsters who want to be influencers, don't plan on getting any real skills. So these are dark times. We must have cultural reform. If you're going to have religion, it must mean something. These are the things that are actually difficult that no politician or political leader is actually addressing. And a lot of this it's more than policy, it's culture. That's why I've always doubled down on I am reforming global culture. Culture decides if your parents are going to let you take a major in sociology versus something more practical like electrical engineering and computer science. Culture decides those things. In China, in parts of Africa, in India, it's already decided. You're going to be an accountant. You're going to be a physician. You're going to be an attorney. By the way, a lot of those pursuits are increasingly irrelevant. Accountants, I don't think that's a great pursuit to go into. Law, increasingly less lucrative. And you get the point. But the fact is that culture defines a lot of the things that create the foundation of strong societies. And even Tucker is missing this point here.
You know, the call centers have moved to South Asia, AI's crushing the lawyers. What do Americans do for a living? Like, think deeply about that and work to make work a reality for people. I mean, you all are, I assume, still in college. Wait till you graduate. You know, I have a child who just graduated college. Once a week, I'm like, how many of your friends, and these are all like smart, pretty affluent, kind of connected, cute girls. How many of your friends have jobs in New York City? 4 out of 10. That's a disaster.
He says that's a disaster. Now, mind you, here's the funny thing. He says that's a disaster. Well, they live in New York City, but they don't have to. So clearly they're very wealthy and they don't have to have jobs. So the sample size is, of course, very small. And the anecdote is largely useless. You're basically telling us about the plight of rich white girls, which is not a plight at all. It's a privilege. And so for that reason, I think it was pretty stupid. But that's okay. Sometimes I say things and, kind of forget that I'm in a different situation than most people. And surely he just did the same thing. Anyways, I have some good news for you guys. Shout out to Ahmad, who's supporting me. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate each and every one of you guys being here with me, really. However, I did always say that these we would give to a member. The gentleman is currently not a member. However, he has supported before. He purchased a master communicator course. He clearly supports. He's here right now with us, and we have love for Ahmad. However, this is earmarked to go to a current member, and so we try to maintain that standard, and we want to stick true to our words. So if you pop your sizes back on, I will select someone else. I'm just going to click another random person. And shout out to Frank supporting the work using the Stripe link. We appreciate you. That link can be found on this profile. And shout out to the folks using PayPal and Venmo to support the work. I appreciate those of you who are doing so.
Faster, actually. And someone needs to be thinking about that deeply, and the promise of MAGA was that somebody would. And then, of course, immigration. Like, you have to control who comes in and out of your country, or else you're not a country.
That's correct. Immigration is a meaningful thing, and we're going to kind of pick apart. Immigration becomes a messy concept because there's the safety concerns, there's the concerns of not allowing other countries to flush their toilets onto America, but then there's the racism that inevitably comes with the immigration discussion. And we see when figures like Elon Musk, who himself is an immigrant, gets involved, racism, he's a South African. Racism just, is so much a part of the conversation. So many dog whistles going on. So we'll break that apart. Shout out to Joseph P. I think I might know who this is. There's one gentleman named Joseph who's always supporting the work. He was on the drip trip as well. If this is that Joseph, great person to award this to. And shout out to the last gentleman who won this too. We got love for all the saints. If you'd be kind enough to send from your member email, just send us an email with your address so we can get this mailed off to you. And we'll get this sent out within a couple days.
And I know that it's considered highly controversial to say that the population of America is being replaced by people from other countries, but it's...
Now, I want you guys to really listen to this. Now, this is the white supremacist dog whistle. Marquett, what do you think? What are you talking about? Okay, he says, people in America are being replaced. Well, I know English. Do you know English? Replaced. Are they being replaced? No, they're not being replaced because, if you replace something, generally we think of replacement as like you have to remove something, right? So let's say that this is lip balm, and let's say this is also lip balm, right? So this is the lip balm in America, and we're going to replace it, and we're going to replace it with that lip balm, right? We've replaced it. So this one's gone, and then this one is now here. It's been replaced. That's not what's happening. The people who are in America currently, the majority, he's referring to whites, they are not being forced to leave. They're remaining where they are. They're not being replaced at any level. So what does he mean? What he really means is that whites are losing numerical supremacy, numerical superiority. They are being moved from a majority into being another group. So what he's suggesting is that he would like whites to be the majority. Well, there's only really one true way for white Americans to continue being the majority, which is to cut off immigration in general from all places. And in addition to that, to improve their birth rate. The problem is they're living in unnatural ways. And because they're living in unnatural ways, they have feminist women, and those women want to be careerist, whether they're leftist or on the right. They're both careerists. They're both feminists. One group admits it and the other group is in denial, lying. So they are having children later in life, maybe why we have so much autism and things like that. They're having children later in life, so that means less children or no children because they waited too long. So the reason that whites are being replaced is in part because whites have such a low birth rate because they're living in unnatural, unhealthy ways. So you cannot, under the current regime and culture, whites can't replace themselves because they're not having enough children. So that's their fault. That's a you problem. That's not the immigrants. So that's number one. Then number two, if you're just saying, well, we'll bring more whites in, bring in more white people. Well, that would still be the kind of replacement that Tucker's talking about in a technical sense, if you're not a racist, right? Because a white person from Albania or Latvia or Russia or Ukraine or Germany or Sweden or Spain, those are not Americans. Those are Europeans. Those are not white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Those are Germans. Those are Spaniards. Those are Slavs. Those are Eastern. Those are not Americans. So your fundamental issue lies in the fact that you're lying. You're lying about what you mean, and you're lying about the nature of the problem. Now, or I should say, is immigration problematic? Absolutely, 1,000%. Now, here's the kicker: who made immigration so problematic? Was it the colored hordes that are trying to infiltrate? Nah, it was the white people who control American government and have so since the very beginning. Even during Barack Obama's administration, it was still white people controlling the government, and they also control the economy. And for the purposes of labor and various other things, they let in immigrants. And some of the administrations were definitely mentally ill, and they let in immigrants by the truckload or the border load. And we've seen the consequences. But as we've seen the country degrade, also we have to remember that the quality of the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant has degraded as well. So there is significant work that needs to be done, not only in terms of policy changes, but also in terms of the quality of American. You see, what Tucker is not accounting for is the fact that the white man and woman of today are very inferior of the white man and woman in many years past. So there you go.